Hey, I'm Billy Stokes. This is my journey of building our business, but without compromising the relationships with people I love. Follow along while I document my growth. This is all BS. Okay, so at this point, we have, we've started. So we're a few months in. The business launched in October. Loose timeline is October 2020. Loose timeline is that we moved into our new house in about April, May. Maybe it settled a little earlier. I don't really recall. And so we moved in, and so we're working on the business, and then working on the house, and then working on the business, and working on the house, and all these sorts of things, and learning about learning trial by fire by how to manage people and manage a team, and and it's funny because like I think one of the blessings of working with someone else and managing someone else's business is that there's less risk. Oh, no. Sorry, that's not true. It's less personal risk to you. You're still managing someone else's business, and it's your reputation, but it's not your house on the block if you bugger it up. And it's funny, I think, talking about the having a negative safety net by way of having a safety net, is that I think that sometimes you're a better manager when you're managing someone else's business, because it's like, well, you can say what you want to say. You can, you're having that, I guess, being more cocksure, if you're going to call it anything, is really kind of what you need. And when I think around leadership, man, like people want to follow people who are who have courage and who have a level of conviction that they know what they're doing, irrespective of whether they do or don't. That's the thing that really, you think around like Donald Trump, right? How the hell did this guy get into being the president? But the man was just freakishly confident. Maybe he's not. Maybe it was a facade, right? But God, like he was just totally sure, totally put his cock on the block and made outlandish statements, but stood by it, And it's just, I think, not to say that we should emulate Donald Trump, but I think that that highlights something that's necessary. A necessary thing to understand about people is that people want to follow people who are confident. And then I think around, okay, well, the question is around the confidence is, what do you need to do so that you're not talking shit and that you can deliver on the things you're confident with? And I think it goes back to the whole thing of what I've learned around success, and this is how I understand it anyway, is that first thing is I was going to say discipline, diligence. Is that it has to be diligence, right? Diligence in your preparation. And then don't keep preparing. Take courage, right? Have courage, be courageous when the time comes, and take the risk. And then commit, And so when I think around our journey is, and I mentioned this earlier in the conversation, was when I look back at our journey, that's kind of the process that we unknowingly took. Was I read every single clause in all of the documents our lawyers gave us. Was I did all this research, all this due diligence to make sure that we actually had a market that we could serve and we weren't barking up the wrong tree. Then it was, okay, I have to have the courage to go and actually ask people for their money. So we did. So I went and asked people. We raised the money to actually start the business, and we raised more than we needed. We took the risk to raise more than we needed to raise, so that we had the fallback of additional cash. All right, so there was that, and then there was just the dog-headed, head down, ass up, work like a dog, and that was, so that's kind of how our business really started. And what I find is, when I observe, and don't get me wrong, like I'm still young in the business game, right? But I'm observant, and I look around, and I find most people get stuck in this doggedness, and they just don't start going back to the point of diligence, going, okay, well, what do I need to do now? What do I need to get in place to have a business that's a business and not a business where it's actually a job, and what I say by that is, like, we are in our fourth year of business, and we're at the point where we've been very intentional about how we've systemized our business so that I don't need to be there. We are now, I think this is my this is nearly my 10th week this year where I haven't been at work. And I've been at home looking after the kids, and then, my wife had the baby, and so I've been this 2 weeks after Bub and all these sorts of things, and I'm like, like it's been great to get to this point where I'm like, we can breathe, and I'm getting hungry again, right? Like I'm definitely getting hungry, or I want to kind of sink my teeth back into something, and there are some things coming up that we're kind of working toward, but yeah. So how the hell do I get onto that? I'm so sorry. That was such a wild tangent. Yeah. Anyway, so going back to the timeline on the business. So here we are. We are the business is up and running. We've hired a few people, and and it's so funny at the time. Oh, dude, we we just had no idea. Not to say we didn't have that gut intuition. We did. I just ignored it. Here's an example. I remember there was this one girl we hired, and she rocked up to the interview like 20 minutes late, and I kind of gave her benefit of the doubt. And nowadays that's a no go. Like I just wouldn't bother. I think how you do the small things is how you do everything. And I'm aware when I say that, I'm aware that I'm speaking to myself as well. I'm conscious that there's areas in my life that I do drop the ball. So yeah, so I'm conscious that it's a hypocritical statement unless you're working on it, and I'm conscious of that. So yeah, and so that was a principle that we didn't really understand. So this chick, she rocked up late, and I kind of gave her the benefit of the doubt, and we all these sorts of things. I was chatting with her, and there were a few little red flags, but nothing crazy. It was kind of like an orange flag, if anything. And I was like, okay, well, we'll give you a go. Listen, she did really well. She did really, really, really well for quite a while. And I think early in the piece, Beck did such a good job. And this is the beautiful part of like owner-operator businesses, is that you have the opportunity to build a really, really good relationship with the team you've got. And Beck did a really great job of having this great synergy where, the team knew exactly what Beck expected of them, knew exactly the standard they operated to, all these things. Like she nailed it. But then on the flip side, she would have a lot of fun. Like the guys, man, they had a lot of fun. Hey, it was so cool. Like, often, birthday parties and all these sorts of things, and a lot of effort put into for the time with each other, and it was really sweet. Like it was really lovely. I certainly felt like I was on the outside of that. Like I didn't have that relationship, especially because those girls were working Monday to Friday with Beck, and then I was working the weekends with another crew. So our core team, they'd come over and hang out and all these sorts of things, and I was kind of like, it was actually a bit awkward when I was around, so I just kind of like vetoed myself from their engagements. Do I think that was the right approach? I think I'd probably take a bit more of an active role now. Although that being said, I am well, not so much right now, but I'm certainly a lot more active in the business than I was back then. By way of like knowing the team and knowing people really well, and Beck spent a lot of time being really intentional with her team, and and again, some of those guys we've got really good relationships with still. So yeah, so anyway, and I think as well, just to kind of like remind everyone, like this is as COVID is really starting to get pretty gnarly now. So we 2020 October. When was it? When was the COVID officially announced? Declared a pandemic. Let's see. January 2020. Wow. Yeah, wow. So there you go. So I was having a look at our company records, and we incorporated the company in, I think it was April 2019 or August 2019 or something like that. That's when the company was registered. So we started getting the money together and started proposing, putting the proposals together and everything else, and then we started getting some money in, and then that's when we started hearing the news. Okay, this is a thing, getting bigger and bigger. Pandemic. On the 11th of March 2020. And I remember I've said this earlier in the conversation, that's where we really had to decide, are we going to put our cock on the block and do this, or are we going to wait? And we decided to go for it. And in hindsight, I'm very glad that we did that. Yeah, so that's wild. So anyway, so in amongst all this, so we're nearly 12 months in, hey? So let me just check Oh gosh, I've lost the position on my photos to check. But if I remember rightly, it was 2021 when we were in our new spot, in our new house, and we yeah, and that's here we go. Yeah, so 2021. So we're about 12 months, So we started the business right in the thick of the pandemic. Things were getting pretty gnarly, Australia, and we were banking on the fact that Kalgoorlie is. We were very intentional about how we set up the business, in the sense not from a legal standpoint, but from the standpoint that very low overheads. We had our loan repayments, but again, we borrowed more money than we needed so that we had the cash reserve there if anything went to custard. So, and I'll be honest, for the most part, we were using that loan to service the loan, right? Because we just were like, we don't know what the future holds, but we know we're going to give this our absolute best go. And so it wasn't until really later, everybody knows that whole like 2, 3, 4 year period was just probably 2 year period, if I were to be honest, was just madness. So we were pretty just optimistic, blindly optimistic, and we decided, we're just going to run our own race on this. Going to kind of ignore what the pundits say, ignore, and that's something others might disagree with as an approach. For the most part, I think that you need to be very selective of what advice you decide to listen to. And it doesn't mean that you don't take on advice, but it means you curate the advice incredibly well. And I think that as you grow, your circle gets smaller because there's less people that understand the full picture. And the more I'm learning about, history and the world and, like just everything, the more I realize no one really knows what they're doing. Everyone's just making the most educated guesses they can. And even at the top, like especially nowadays, God, everything is just adapting so fast. Like technology is changing, society's changing, all these sorts of things are changing so fast that you don't really know what's coming around the corner, and everyone's just taking their best educated guesses. You can, if we take a look at a macro standpoint, history is a great indicator of what's coming. Okay, like there's this thing that says, is people say history repeats itself, but it's not. It's people who don't read history or people who don't learn history repeat history, and there's nothing new under the sun. Everything has been done before. It's just repackaged. That's all it is. So we were very much just going like, okay, like this isn't the first time. Black Plague. All right, that was a thing a couple hundred years ago. Prior to that, it was this. Prior to that, it was this. It was this. It was like, let's just have a punt. Let's just have the biggest punt we possibly can, and do the best possible job that we can in amongst that. So there was certainly a level of commitment. I mean, bugger me, we sold a house. Like we drive past that house and we go, I wish we could have kept that. But, we stood by our vision. We did what we wanted to. We weren't just risking other people's money. Like we put ourselves out there as well. It wasn't just we weren't insulated from a negative outcome. Like we certainly had our risk there. So, yeah, so in amongst all this happening, and it's all duckies and bunnies, and we're hitting these like milestones and stuff really early on, and it's great, it's really great. And in amongst all that, COVID, like it's in the back of our minds the whole time. So we were really lucky that we were a takeaway joint, because I know that a lot of like dining places got really hit pretty hard, and I think that wasn't necessarily anything intentional that we did. And a lot of places pivoted to takeaway, but we were already takeaway. So that was really fortunate for us, and that was just lucky. But again, I will say that I think the second order effect of that luck is that we were very, very intentional with making sure we started with a very low cost operation. Like, there was our wages, Beck and I, and obviously we had the others that we had employed. Rent was minimal. If we weren't using power and water, then we wouldn't have had those costs. Like there's insurance costs and stuff like that. But really, for the most part, it was a very low cost operation. So we did pretty good. We're pretty happy with that. And things were ticking along. We had a good team in, and I was very much of the belief that when I, well, actually, sorry, before I dive into that, um, oh, I think one of the things that really hamstrung us early in the piece was that it would take us a long time to move people on from it if they're not a good fit. It would take weeks rather than just going, hey, like it's obvious you're not a good fit. And part of that was that I would always look at people and see their potential. And listen, that's great. I think it's always good to hark to people's potential and and call the best out of them. And I think that that's a leadership skill that I definitely still need to work on. But when I think around, okay, like speaking to, I've hired this person because I can see that they've got something that's going to work. Something that's going to fit in our team. And the problem that I would have was I would drag my feet trying to get rid of these people, who were detrimental to the team, because I was about, there's potential there. And when we're talking about potential, like I mean, I could be Elon Musk, I could be Usain Bolt, I could be Eddie Hall, I could be I could be in the SAS, I could be David Goggins, and I could be all these things. Absolutely, I could be. I think the difference on how to know whether I have the potential to be or not is whether I'm actually showing everybody that I've got the potential to be David Goggins or the potential to be Eddie Hall or Elon Musk or Warren Buffett. Like, if I'm showing you that I'm doing the things that have the potential, then sure. Otherwise, the answer is no, the potential is not there. Or the potential there is there and latent for sure, but it's not being actualized, in which case it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if I said to you, hey, I'm going to build you a portfolio that could potentially be worth, X amount of dollars. And how do you know that I can do that? Because I can show you that I can build that portfolio. That's how you know the potential is going to be actualized or not. And so that was the realization, and we had that realization way late, realizing that, okay, like, if I hire this person, here's the expectations. My job is to serve this person in my team as best I can so they can flourish as best they possibly could. Like, that's my intention as an employer. And when I think around what that looks like from a from the team's whole dynamic, is it is my responsibility to make sure that part of the way I'm serving people is I'm bringing people into the team who are going to be complementary and that really serve the rest of the team as well, and it's a good fit. The hard part about that is that it's also my responsibility to move people on when they're not a good fit. And that doesn't mean that that's the default. Like, when I interview people, like, I say to them, hey, listen, we've got a 3-strike rule, and I've got like a booklet that we go through and it outlines all this. And in that, we actually say, hey, our assumption is going to be you're not trying to do a shit job. Our assumption is that you're putting your best foot forward, and we're going to help diagnose what is really going on. But if we can't actually improve these sorts of things, then this is a 3-strike, you're out process. So if someone rocks up late, I'm not going to jump down their throat and bark at them for being late. The first thing is, hey man, like, this is out of character for you. What's going on? Oh, well, my dog died. Oh, shit, dude, man, I'm really sorry. Like, let's go have a beer afterwards or whatever. Rather than just like, just cracking the whip and telling them to pull their head in. I just don't think that that is productive. Like, I think a process of discovery is super, super important. So, yeah, so, gosh. Oh, the potential thing. Yeah. So potential. Potential only matters if you're seeing it. If the potential is not exhibited, then I'd argue that the potential probably won't be exhibited while they're under your care, unless you change how you're leading. And I think that I had a conversation with someone recently about how to create team synergy and buy-in and focus and alignment and that sort of stuff, and it's exciting, and so that's a skill that I need to work on. So anyway, if we had our time over, we certainly would have probably not hired some of the people we hired. And yeah, so anyway, so we're at this point where, we're realizing, okay, we're onto something here. We've built a really good brand really quick. That was very intentional as well. We're really active in engaging people and, engaging the community. Like, when we launched our very first day, we did a free coffee day. And our approach is that, business has to be a means to an end, and the end cannot be money. It has to be And I'm a big believer. Well, actually, here's one of the lessons we've learned in business is that by giving, you receive. And even from a business standpoint, you think business fundamentally is deliver more value than the price you're asking someone to pay. Money in and money out. That's it. My camera does this thing. I don't know what that is. So yeah, deliver more value, and that's an act of giving. I'm giving you more value than you're going to be giving me. And if you give first, you then receive. On a broader scale, is that we were going, well, we want to give back to this community. Like, here's a community we've grown up in, we love, and we really value the people, the everything. So we wanted to keep giving to the community, like, hey, we're giving back to you guys. And the first thing we did was we did a free coffee day, and it went wild. God, it was a baptism by fire. Shit, I remember. God, it was crazy, dude. We It was so cool. Testament to the Kalgoorlie spirit, man. I remember Steve McKenney owns Everett Butchers, legend of a guy. He went and bought Maccas, and he brought us all Maccas because we had been starting since like 4:30 in the morning, and we just did not stop until we decided to close. And I think we closed mid-arvo, and it was just crazy. It just didn't stop all day long, And it was one of the best launches, like best ways to launch. Highly recommend if ever you're going to do it. Yeah, so we did a free coffee day to everyone, and $0 as well. Some people would try and pay, and we refused it. We were just like, no, and it was great. Anyway, just very quickly around giving, one thing I've learned is that you don't give so that you do receive. Knowing that you receive gives you the confidence to give, knowing that it's going to come back to you and you're not going to be out of pocket. Because the thing is, you also have to look after yourself, right? But knowing that through the act of generosity you also receive is really cool. So there's been a few times since then where we've taken some initiatives around some causes that are close to home and things we resonate with, and it's been really cool. And every single time we know if we give, we always receive, and not to say that you. And again, I'm a big believer. I know that Jesus it talks about not being hypocritical in your giving in the quiet. And Beck and I, there are things that we do that people don't know about, and that's how we like it. But there's also a lot that we do, and one thing that we've realized is that we can use business as a conduit for giving. People want to be generous. People want to give. People want to do these sorts of things, but people are also scared that, and this is valid, this is coming from my door knocking days, because that was an absolute bloody scam, is realizing that, so much of the money that gets raised for charities just does not go where it's meant to go. And people know this and they hate it, and rightly so. So what we realized in business was that actually if there's a cause that we align with, we genuinely have an alignment with, and we say, hey, all this money is going to go directly to X cause, then it gives people the confidence, because we're willing to put our face up there. And we're willing to say, hey, for today only, all the money we make is going to go there. And these days will cost us thousands and thousands of dollars. And but this is the crazy part, is like, I remember the first time we did this was for a local family whose son had a brain tumor. And in not even 24 hours, I think we're trading for from 4:30 to 1, so it's 9 hours. In 9 hours we raised 20 grand. I think it was 21 grand or something crazy. And we had people come in with stacks of money. I remember these guys came and bought in 5 coffees and had a wad of $600. Just shit like that all day. It absolutely blew my mind. And that was and we were just going, hey, listen, we're just going to give out our day's trade. Whatever, you guys just come pay whatever you want for your coffees. We're just going to make coffees and whatever. It ended up being a 2-hour wait for coffees and shit like that. And people waited, or they would come back at least. It was incredible, and so many people didn't get their coffees because they had to wait too long, and and it was just madness. It was so cool. And we've done other things since, and we're realizing that actually people want to give, people are generous, and it feels good. It feels good to give to something beyond you, and that our business can act as a conduit for that, where we're able to be a conduit for people's generosity, and give them confidence that it's meant to, that it'll go where it's meant to go, and I think that's one of the second order effects that we kind of didn't realize at the start. Man, God, this has been a little roundabout trip. So, yeah, so those are some of the lessons. Yeah, around that's right, around team management and all these sorts of things. So yeah, we certainly harking back to the building the team now, was that we early in the piece we didn't really know what we were doing building the team, and and in my mind it's just very much like, I'll just get the right people, all that sort of stuff, and get the right people and gravy. So really the skill that I need to develop is, how do I find the right people and how do I train those people and stuff. And I think that's one, like one. But in my mind, that's what everybody talks about. Everybody talks about, oh, it's just people, finding the right people and these sorts of things, and and I've got this like belief starting to come back that, what, people are inherently, they want to do good. And there's this whole narrative, especially at the moment around the younger generation, which I don't buy into, is that, they just don't give a shit, they're lazy and all these sorts of things. I think that the younger generation actually care more than most. And it's very much like, well, what's the point putting this effort if I'm just going to get shanked anyway? That to me sounds like someone who actually cares. So I think having that default belief actually is healthy, rather than assuming that people are just lazy pieces of shit that don't want to work. And I say that because, man, even right now, I've got a very young workforce, and bugger me, man, they do good. All the respect in the world for those guys. So, yeah, so that was, I think early days, we didn't really know what we were doing when it came to building a team. More so, we didn't really know what we were doing when it came to running a business. Like, we found a gap in the market. We had some skills, it had really good rapport with people and people skills, and Beck had this really good, not to say Beck didn't have the people skills, everyone loves Beck, but she had this like really, really good skill set in the culinary skill set, and the synergy between those found a really good gap in the market. And I think we maximized on that. And in doing so, we didn't realize actually we need to have all this back-end infrastructure in the business for it to be sustainable. So here we are thinking, okay, like, we're doing the business game, and look at us, superheroes. Yeah, fuck yeah, we're doing it. Like, we're winning. And not really knowing what we were doing. We're so young and naive, and so super early into the business game. And so then we decided that we would grow. And that is where we ran into trouble. Let's say that. Cool. That's that.